What's up, everyone? I'm going to bet whatever amount you can put out there that no one predicted the scoreline for this past weekend's Orange County versus FC Tulsa match. That saw Orange County victorious 5-1, including a first half hat trick from Milan. We'll talk about that. We'll look forward to the upcoming match against El Paso. Welcome to the Podcast of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
And the air leaves Allang Stadium in one large exhale. Trouble. A Rosarita's beat. Orange County opens the scoring. It's Thomas. Kuninga scores! The old guard with a new trophy.
This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. Follow us on Twitter at OCSC_SoccerCast or on Facebook at Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
How's it going, Orange County? Before we get into the soccer talk, I know this is a soccer podcast. We just wanted to share our thoughts and our hearts with those impacted by some tragic events that happened this past week in Orange County, including the coastal fire that impacted Laguna Niguel area, burning down multiple structures. Luckily, thanks to the amazing firemen and firewomen and first responders, the injuries were limited, so that's appreciated there. Also, hearts and thoughts go out to those that were affected by the tragic shooting that took place in Laguna Woods, with one person dying. Basically, what would be considered a hero, Dr. John Chang, basically jumped to action, stopped the shooter as best he could, and basically we had less casualties than we probably would have had he not done so. So thoughts and hearts go out to all of those impacted by that. If anyone wants to make a donation to those impacted by that church shooting, go on to Twitter, go to the Orange County SC Twitter page, and they have a link to a GoFundMe for that. Now let's get into what we all are here, and it's to talk about soccer. How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora, and I'm here to take you through this journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. Let's run through the gauntlet here and introduce everyone else that's part of this show. First, the man that you used to see weekly in County Line Coalition, but not so much anymore. But he's still a fan and he's still on the podcast. That's Dylan. Dylan, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. It's interesting. I guess I am actually, in a way, no longer Dylan from County Line Coalition, but glad we have a bright spot in what's been kind of a really rough week in the Orange County community.
Yes, definitely. And I did get asked the question when I went to the game this week in my first match of the season. Ray, where's Dylan been? And so they miss you there, Dylan. That's at least what we can say is they miss you in County Line Coalition section, the supporter section.
I miss them more. I promise them that. Except for Mikey.
Let's head down south to San Diego and welcome the man that makes us a more legit podcast because he's a member of a legit podcast in the USL show, and that's Mr. Allen. How you doing, Allen?
Doing all right. I'm more like the guy who just like hangs out with the more reputable podcast. But no, things are going all right. Soccer happened this past weekend, but unless you're a Wave fan, you didn't know it in San Diego. So I'm excited to talk about a soccer match that actually happened.
Tough break for you San Diego fans of being able to actually go and watch a match for the time being here for a good portion of time. But this is an Orange County podcast. We'll let you talk about that towards the end. We'll discuss that. Let's head up north and to the west slightly to Reno. And Mr. Brad up in Reno, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing quite well, for the first week in what feels like forever. I'm going to drink beer instead of Malort on an episode of the Orange and Black podcast, Soccer Cast.
You should just have to drink Malort for already butchering our podcast name there in the first 5 minutes of our episode. Get that Malort out, Brad. So we're going to do things slightly out of order today just because we do have a guest to help us out with the match preview against El Paso Locomotive. So we're going to start with the preview. Then we will move on to the recap of this past weekend's match. And we have a special guest scheduled to join us at that point. as well. So let's get into this preview. And to help us out with that, we've got another member of the USL show, also a founder of the podcast that covers El Paso Locomotive. If I can remember, it's Seriously Loco.
That's
and
one.
that's Mr. Phil Bakke. Phil, welcome to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. How you doing, my man?
Thanks. Yeah, doing well. Locomotive has been a little bit of a roller coaster so far this season. So hoping that we're back on the upswing after a tough result in Pittsburgh. But anyways, yeah, pleasure to be on and looking forward to chatting some football with you guys.
So I'm going to go straight to this question because El Paso was a pretty strong team last season. Probably a disappointing early exit from the playoffs for many of the fans, and I'm sure the team, front office, and everyone themselves. And then it's been a rough start to this season. How has the past 6 months been as an El Paso Locomotive fan, and what are you guys doing to try and not be too depressed over what's been going on?
Yeah, it has been it's been a weird few months. I think it all kind of started, obviously, no one was expecting after that playoff exit for us to be looking for a new manager, at least not involuntarily, I guess. So when Mark announced that he was going to Indy, that was definitely kind of the first blow of, man, things for next season not really looking like they're going to plan. But I would say the appointment of John Hutchinson, after that, it kind of went back to, we're not that far removed from being an expansion team, being in season 4. So it felt almost a little akin to season 1, where it's like, man, we don't really know. It's sort of an unknown quantity, not really known in the league, and building some of the roster back. So yeah, I think a lot of it going into the season, it felt a lot like season 1. And the beginning of the season has kind of been like that, where I think Locomotive have, obviously it was some really rough results at the beginning of the season, but I think they've started to, as we were watching the games, we're like, okay, either the results are going to start to match the numbers, or the numbers are going to regress to match the results. And luckily, what's happened so far over the last few games anyways, and the last couple of weeks, has been the results are finally starting to be closer to the actual numbers performance. And I think we've probably enjoyed some good results recently. And I will address this. Eric Calvillo has over the last couple of weeks really come into his own for Locomotive, and actually grabbed his first goal for the club against LA Galaxy 2 in El Paso a couple of games ago. So I think Eric is endearing himself to the Locomotive faithful. But yeah, it's been up and down so far, but I think with the new manager coming in and all that, it's to be expected a little bit.
So I'll say this. I mean, you guys are fans loved Eric Calvillo last season, especially towards the end of the year and in the playoffs. So we definitely miss him here in Orange County. I think he is one of those players, because I think when he first came to Orange County too, it took him a month or so to get sort of in the swing of things and find his footing with the team. And then he hit his stride towards the end of the season. So hopefully he does good for you guys, but doesn't hit that great stride and helps lead you guys into a late season run. That's just coming as an Orange County fan. Nothing against El Paso. You look at the table, you look at El Paso, right? It's been a mixed bag of results for them. But one thing you're noticing, only one draw in the 11 matches. So they're either winning or losing. They're not, it doesn't seem like they're playing, or they're trying for draws like maybe what many Orange County fans would say about our squad. You guys are looking for that win, and sometimes it works. More often it doesn't work. Is that what you're noticing as a fan with El Paso? And what's the thought process from the fans on that win or lose attitude?
Yeah. So, I mean, this reference, I know with Orange County's affiliation with Rangers, I know this may not sit that well with the podcast, but Ange Postecoglou, who is Celtics manager now, John Hutchinson was his assistant when he was in the J League with Yokohama. So basically, it's an all-action style. He plays really similar style of football to Ange, and it is, yeah, it's all out. Like, fullbacks joining in the attack. It is like really similar to what you might see from like a Manchester City in England, like in terms of the fullbacks getting in field. There's a lot of high intensity pressing, really just like going for it. And I think in the first like opening form of the season, we really saw a handful of players who were adjusting to the style, and it wasn't going great. I think Evan Newton is probably the biggest example in goal. He was being asked to sweep, to play like a lot more of an active role at keeper than he's used to, and it led to a lot of like comical goals. Like if you watch back some of the goals that El Paso were conceding early in the season, it was brutal, and it was like very predictable, where anytime a ball was being played in behind, Nico Brett is Nico Brett's goal against Locomotive for New Mexico United, one of Danny Trejo's goals, there are these like chips over the keeper just because he's kind of in no man's land. And so anyways, like this all action style, a lot of people struggle to adjust to it. And let me be really clear. I want to say that that I know there's levels to this. I'm just saying, like, in terms of what's being asked of the players, it's similar tactically. I know it, I'm not saying that Locomotive or Man City by any stretch. But the style is reminiscent. So anyways, some of those goals, I think if you watch back a handful of Locomotive's recent games, you'll see that understanding between the defense and goalkeeper has really shored up a lot over the last couple of weeks, and things have definitely looked a lot more solid. And the goal scoring hasn't really slowed down. I mean, they got held goalless in Pittsburgh, but I think a lot of teams get held goalless in Pittsburgh, if we're being honest. So yeah, I think the goal scoring is there. They are the highest scoring team in the league so far this season, and now the defense is kind of getting to a point where they're, performance wise, they're not letting themselves down quite as easily as they were earlier in the season.
Yeah, you knew exactly where I was going to go next. Looking at the table, El Paso is the leading goal scoring team in the league. Even with Orange County's 5 goals this past weekend, they're still 9 back of El Paso for the season, although El Paso has played 2 additional games above Orange County. So I guess if Orange County can duplicate what they did over their next 2 matches in El Paso, or to even it out, then maybe Orange County takes the lead. But obviously, I don't think any Orange County fan thinks that that's a sustainable thing for our team. Let me ask you, for El Paso, is that sustainable? Like, just being a high-powered offensive team, is that something that the team can do for the full season? And is that, in your eyes, a winning formula for El Paso, or is there something differently that you would like to see out of this team, maybe to help fight for a championship?
Yeah, I think the goal scoring is sustainable. I think when you look across these attackers, the goals don't necessarily come from one main man. Although I will say Lucho Solignac has really picked up his goal scoring form over the last few games, and he missed a decent part of the beginning of the season because he actually had a child early on. So he missed a handful of the first few games, and he's already got 5 goals, even though he's kind of playing catch up. So he's gotten right into goal scoring form. But right alongside him, Josue Aron Gomez has been in good form, and then you've got Dylan Maris, Diego Luna joining in the attack as well. So yeah, there's a lot of I'd say there's a lot of different versatile attacking players. And then they've got, well, I would say luckily for the opponents of Locomotive, probably one of my favorite signings of the offseason, Emmanuel Sanupe, is unfortunately injured. He's been one of our more dynamic kind of wingers. But Cristiano Francois, who applied his trade in Miami last year, he's did not get off to the greatest start with Locomotive, but he's looked unbelievable over the last couple of games. And so I'm really excited to see him add some goals to the assists he started to provide from that wing position. And I think in terms of, I think a helicopter's coming for me. I don't know. Anyways, I think in terms of what I want to see from Locomotive, they've exerted a lot of control over games. They've exerted a lot of they've had a lot of possession in a lot of games, and they've scored a lot of goals. But really, it just comes down to they do need to maintain that defensive solidity, and I think they've found the pairing now. And I know there will be a couple of people in chat who will chuckle at this, but Andrew Fox and Yuma as a center back pairing. Yuma, I know, is not the most popular man in USL over the last few months or few weeks, maybe years. I don't know, but yeah, that pairing in center back has really settled things down, and I think that's what we were all looking for in El Paso, was just some level of defensive solidity to match the goal scoring.
That you're just reading our minds, Phil, for all these segues. I was actually going to ask about a now 36-year-old Yuma playing as a center back, and Lowry Ball, for all of its positives. Kind of the way to play against it was invite them to get pretty high up and then just play a long ball over the top, over the center backs. How have things changed now? And I mean, how are teams getting through? Because it's been 13 points from 11 matches for El Paso. It hasn't been great. How have teams been getting through the defense?
Yeah. The long balls over the top definitely were killers initially. And I think a lot of goals that we were conceding were just that. Like, they would just find that space in behind. Yuma did miss a decent chunk at the beginning of the season, and it's crazy to think of him as a solution to that, because I mean, on paper, yeah, 36-year-old center back doesn't and you're having problems with runs in behind, it doesn't really make a ton of sense. But the pairing of him and Andrew Fox has helped. Andrew Fox had been playing at left back primarily, and I think actually, if you asked him, he prefers to play as a left back, but he's now played center back in some way, shape, or form, like whether it's filling in for injuries or whatever, basically at different points of all of the 4 seasons that he's been with us. And I think it's by far his best position, and he is kind of that more traditional, like athletic, big central defender. And he was primarily playing at left back when El Paso was having these like defensive woes. So I think having him at center back, having somebody who can cover the space in behind the fullbacks, because the fullbacks get involved in the attack. Harry Brockbank at right back and Eder Borelli at left back, like they're gonna bomb on, like they're gonna get involved in the attack. And that's where the space has often been. Like, even in as recently as like the Loudon match, they were constantly just putting the ball in behind the fullback, and it really did take like a little bit of a tactical tweak to try to shut that space down. And for whatever reason, the pairing of Yuma and Foxy, it ends up working pretty decently. But yeah, I mean, they are going to be susceptible to that. I think I think any of these teams that play like that intense, like high pressure style, that ball over the top is going to be like the way in behind. And I'd fully expect, teams to continue to try to exploit that. But I think the improvement in and like the development of the relationship of that backline has made it a lot less of a easy target than it was in the opening weeks of the season.
Okay, and a final question for me: is Luna Coin still going to the moon? Is that on board for 2022?
Yeah, aka Diego Coin. Yeah, it's he's been so good, and I think the thing that strikes me about Luna, I absolutely think this is his last season with Locomotive. I have no delusions of us being able to keep hold of him for much longer. He has played a slightly different role most of the time this year than he did last year. He like played on the wing a lot last year. and as part of like the attacking trio. Now he's playing deeper in midfield most of the time, and he's still just really it's unbelievable, like the level that he can impact a game. And I actually do like him making those late runs into the box and still being dangerous. But yeah, for me, I mean, obviously I joke on Twitter, but it is he is one of the best young talents in USL right now, and I think his stock is only going to rise. And unfortunately, I think it's going to outgrow Locomotive sooner than later.
Yeah, so it would probably be an understatement to say both Orange County and El Paso have been kind of underperforming at the beginning of the season. What do you see as far as like opportunities El Paso can exploit for Orange County, or where, based on, I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the weaknesses earlier, but where are some of those things that you think Orange County might be able to get some joy against El Paso?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Orange County getting at El Paso, it is the counter, like that. That really is like looking for the opportunities on the counter and forcing Locomotive to turn and face their own goal. Stuff played in front of them, like through the midfield, especially and again, I'm referencing like the old guard of Locomotive, but when Richie Ryan and the likes of Eric Calvillo can like keep the game in front of them and force you to play through midfield, it can get I think it can get frustrating for teams. So they often end up just bypassing the midfield because it's a way easier route. And I mean, I think Locomotive have suffered, in the past at the hands of Orange County and the counterattack. So I wouldn't expect their game plan to be much different than what you've seen previously. In terms of what I think, I do think that I think this Locomotive side can be, they can score a lot of goals. And so they are going to force, there's going to be moments in this where Orange County are like battening down the hatches, I think. Now, it won't be the entire game, and it won't be, no team's going to keep that up for 90 minutes. And I'm not saying that Locomotive are going to dominate, but they are going to have a lot of the ball probably. And there will be periods of the game where they are kind of camped in Orange County's half. And so I think really it'll just be about Orange County like defending those moments well and really like taking their opportunities. Cause for all their faults, like this is by no means a perfect Locomotive team. They create a lot of chances. I think they're 6th in the league in XG, and they have a lot of the ball. So yeah, I think that's where, for Locomotive, I'm saying like keep the pressure on and force Orange County to play, perfect defense for as long as possible. But for Orange County, it's definitely, that counterattack.
Better Mexican food, Texas or California?
I mean, it's Texas.
No, get him out. He's out.
By a lot, by a million.
No, he's out. All right.
See, but here's the thing, right? At least in California, right? We don't have to go and say Cali Mex food like Texas people have to do. They have to put Texas in front of the Mex to make it their own, right? We don't go Cali Mex. We just say Mexican food. In Texas, it's Tex-Mex.
Yeah, I mean, no one said I don't know. In El Paso, no one said Tex-Mex because we were just, with Juarez right there. Same deal. I feel like Juarez, and like Allen's down in San Diego, I feel like it's similar vibe, to
El Paso,
like
Juarez,
town.
and the San Diego TJ connection is sort of similar.
Yeah,
going on there.
town. Yeah.
Now I don't know geographically, but I would assume there's Whataburger there in El Paso. Have you had In-N-Out? And what would you say is the better burger, In-N-Out or Whataburger? And I know you're a Texan, so it's gonna hurt if you say In-N-Out, but I want you to be honest about it.
Yeah, so I am. I promise I'm being very, very honest here, because I have had both, and I'm not a native Texan. I was a transplant. The Army brought me there originally, but I think I think by a slight margin, Whataburger is the better burger. But
He
here's
doesn't want to lose any followers from the El Paso crowd by saying Whataburger.
here's the thing.
I don't know. Phil,
Here's the thing. In and out, like, don't, and this may be a very unpopular thing that I'm about to say, but I like the animal style. Why did that become, why did Thousand Island dressing, like, when did that become like the move?
It's spread.
And I don't know. Maybe I just don't have the refined palate.
The animal style, it's not just the spread, it's also the grilled onions and the pickles thrown on there. And to be honest, I don't do a full animal style. I just do the spread, the pickles, and extra grilled onions. That's my In-N-Out style burger right there. I don't need the lettuce, the tomatoes. I don't need those healthy parts of it. Just give me all the unhealthy aspects that you put on a burger to make it good. The only thing missing from In-N-Out, and you may relate to this because you're so, as an El Paso person, you got that closeness to New Mexico, is that red or green chili that you can add to a burger that you can get. I don't know if Whataburger does that, but I know there's some burger places in New Mexico that you can go and get some, good green chili thrown onto your burger. That's the one thing missing from In-N-Out. The closest thing to that is those yellow peppers, those, I mean, they're decent, but they're still not what you get from like the good New Mexico green chili.
This is a
Dylan has something to say.
Podcast.
Hey, it is, but it is. Really quick, for time purposes, I want to just get to the predictions for this match really quick. Before we do so, let's bring up the standings for our prediction contest. We have this past week, I actually had a really great week thanks to the score line, although I would have loved the 5-0 shutout. That one goal conceded in extra time that allowed that one goal for Tulsa gave me an extra 3 points on that. So now I jump up 7 points, and I don't think you guys got any points this past week because you all predicted either a draw or a Tulsa victory. So I'm on a roll. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, so but here's our standings. Go for it, Brad. This is your segment.
All right.
With his bad internet, of course, so I don't know if he'll be able to do it. Maybe I'll hand it off to Alan.
Yeah.
You can take over for Brad.
Oh, no.
Oh, Brad, he just came back as soon as he said his internet was down. I'm reluctant to push it over to Brad because he looked like he was frozen. Dylan would be in place, so he picks first. What's your prediction, Dylan?
1-1.
Search predictions. Go for it, Dylan.
I'm going 1-1 here.
All right.
I think
1-1
last
is
week
Dylan's
was an
prediction.
anomaly.
1-1. Interesting. Ray, you're up
Do
next.
I go next then?
Yeah,
So-
you're going to let the guest choose, right?
Yeah, I'm going to let our guest choose. So, Phil, you get to predict. You get to do my official prediction for this, but I want you to be an unbiased soccer fan. I don't want you to do it as an El Paso fan. Do it as what do you actually think the final score will be for this match?
Yeah, I am going to go 2-1 to the Locos. So I think it's just, super close. I think it could even be like bundled, similar to that 2-2 we had. What was that last year? Bundled finish across the line, like in deep into stoppage time. But I think Locomotive create the more chances and get the win. But
Alan, what's your prediction?
I'm going to go 2-2, I think is what I said on the USL show. So I'm going to be consistent. It is a theme of Orange County and El Paso that a team either scores 0 or they score 2. And it's been 2 draws the last 2 times they've played. So there's lots of 2s. So I'm just going to roll with it in 2-2.
And Brad, if you can get a strong enough connection for at least 30 seconds here, what is your prediction for this match? If not, throw it in the chats.
3-2.
3-2 Orange County.
I'll throw it in the chat.
There we go. I think he said 3-2 Orange County. Folks, put your predictions or let Brad know your predictions for this match so you can be part of our contest. I want to thank Phil for joining us for this episode. Phil, you can hang out with us a little bit longer if you want to. I know it's a little bit late for you. I'll give you that option. Yes or no?
I am going to take off because I'm in Eastern time, unfortunately. But I will. I'll be. Yeah, tuning into the match. It should be a fun one regardless. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, and check out Phil on the USL show. And Phil, if people want to hear more from you, where do they go on social media, or what podcast do they listen to?
Yeah. So I'm at Phil Talks Footy on Twitter. And then you can listen if you want more locomotive stuff, you can find my show Seriously Loco, at Seriously Loco. And I do a European soccer podcast too called Hardcore Football at HXC Footy. Or
I thought
at
you were going to
HXC
throw on
Football.
like a Liverpool thing here or something, because I think you're a Liverpool fan.
I am, and I'm trying not to jinx anything or do anything that might, there's a lot going on, so I'm trying to just ride that wave. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time, Phil, for joining us on the episode to help preview the match. Best of luck to you the rest of the season. Just hopefully El Paso stumbles against Orange County this weekend.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And yeah, best of luck aside from Saturday.
Awesome. So again, reverse order on the show. So we now previewed this upcoming match, but let's now look back at the previous match. And we figured, what better way to look back at the previous match than to bring on the reigning USL Championship Player of the Week. Got a hat trick in the first half against FC Tulsa. And let's just say this also, now the second Oloski to be on our show. Brian's been on the show before. Now we got Milan Oloski. Milan, welcome to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you so much for taking some time in your evening to join us. Let me just ask you this. A hat trick in the first half. I believe this is your first professional hat trick. What did brother Brian say after you got that hat trick, and how did you make that happen in the first half?
Yeah, I saw him at halftime. He was in the locker room, so he was joking with me, telling me I should have had one more. But yeah, no, it was great. It was a great start to the game for the team, and the goals were all great assists, and I think that it spoke about how well the group played, and I think that I was just the guy that finished off the chances, and yeah, ultimately it was a great performance in that first half.
Yeah, and it's been a little bit of a struggle for Orange County to put up a strong offensive performance this season, but this was sort of out of nowhere. 5 goals in the first half. How did that happen? Like, was there just like the right momentum from the team going on? Were you guys all just hitting on all cylinders, or did you guys find something in the Tulsa defense that you guys knew and you guys could exploit?
No, I think that we throughout the week worked on keeping the ball more, and I think that we emphasized that, and I think that you saw it in the game. We looked a lot more patient, and yeah, I think ultimately the work that we did in training leading up to it resulted in a good performance. And I think was Tulsa set up? I don't think so. I think that they were a good team and they've had good results this year, but I think that we were able to just dictate play the way we wanted to and finish our chances. I think that's what it came down to at the end of the day.
Let me ask you, just be honest, like when you came to Orange County, it was sort of it wasn't like this headlining signing that Orange County announced early on. It was sort of this in the works thing. You joined the club. You've been given this early opportunity due to maybe some injuries and just an opportunity of what we need from you on the pitch. What has helped you take advantage of these opportunities and earn this spot where you're consistent in the starting 11?
Yeah, I was waiting. I had a few offers to go to MLS from Real Salt Lake, but ultimately I decided in my career right now, I need to get minutes. I need to play. And I think, part of the idea was to play with Brian and play with someone that I think could work really well with me, not just because we're brothers, but also we just would fit really well on the field together. And I spoke with the coaching staff. I came into preseason and trained with the team a couple of days before I signed just to see if it was a good fit for me. And yeah, and now, I kind of hit the ground running a little bit, started the year off strong, and then had a little dip in form there, but scored a couple of goals this last weekend, and hopefully now that'll jumpstart me for this middle part of the year, and it can help the team get more results and help us keep getting these wins.
Now, I got to ask this because we brought up your brother, Brian, but you have another brother that plays this sport. So what is it in the Oloski household that produces 3 professional soccer players as far as, USL quality players here? Is this just the hard work from you guys, or was there something that maybe some athletic traits that got passed down? What do you think led to all 3 of you having USL careers?
Yeah, I think, our dad played professionally. Ultimately, he couldn't because he had to start providing for, us at a young age. So I think that, back then when you're playing soccer, he played for the Sockers. And so there wasn't enough money to provide for a family, so he had to stop his career early. And he was our coach our whole life. Our mom was very athletic, so that probably helped us on that side of things. But we all were in love with the sport from a young age. When I was, 4 or 5 years old, I knew that's what I want to do the rest of my life. And it wasn't that I was forced into it or anything. It was that my older brothers did it. I always would go to their games when I was a little kid and wanted to go run out in the field and play. And then, our dad was more than happy to help us and train us and, take time out of work sometimes to, be our coach in the afternoon. And ultimately we had a lot of, battles in the backyard, I guess. And that just made us love it more and love the competitiveness of it. And I think that's why you see us all having careers now in the sport.
Yeah, and we have Alan from San Diego, so he knows all about Sockers, and it's interesting. There's this really strong Sockers connection between Orange County and the Sockers. When you look at some of the coaching that we've had, some of the former players we've had with parents that have played for Sockers, which is really interesting. Let me ask you this: out of you and your brothers, who's the best Olaski out there? Who's the one that's going to end up having the best career?
That's such a tough one. That's the question everyone always has, but I mean, it's tough to say. I think if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would just said me flat out. But I'm a little bit more mature now, so I think I would say it depends what you're looking for. I think that we can give anything. I think if you're looking for a guy who's got a lot of pace and athleticism and really good defensively, you go with Eric. If you're looking for that midfielder who's amazing on the ball and can get assists, you're going to want Brian. I think if you want a goal scorer and someone who's got a little bit more of a bit of flair to them, I guess you could say, I think you'd go with me. So I guess it really just depends on what you need.
I'm going to hand it off to Dylan for our next question.
Sure. Enough talking about on-field Milan Olaski. Granted, 9 goal involvements in 11 matches. Like, that's going to do plenty to endear you to the fans. What is it about Milan Olaski off the pitch? We've got Miko, who loves social distortion. We've got Richard Chaplow, who loves carrots, apparently. I mean, what's your little weird niche thing that you bring to the locker room?
Everyone knows me now as a golfer. I think that's the funniest thing that I bring. I think that everyone. I don't know how this got started, but apparently I golf a lot. I do golf quite a bit, but I've been golfing with all of the guys a little bit, and that's kind of my thing down the locker room. Everyone calls me a golfer, so Orozco likes to give me a lot of stick about that one, actually, about playing a lot of golf. He always tells me I play more golf than soccer, so I don't know how that one got started, but yeah, huge golfer. I think, to the fans, I think they can relate with me as just, someone from the area. I grew up 45 minutes from here and grew up knowing about Orange County and going to the games at Great Park. And I think that, I'm a local kid who just went to school up at UCLA. So I've always been around this area my whole life. So, I'm familiar with the area, the type of people, the social groups and the type of people that Orange County has. And it's a great area, and I've always wanted to live here. And now that I'm not just living here, but playing for the club, it's a pleasure for me. And I always try and make as much time for the fans after the games, and even during the games, walking in at halftime and stuff, and giving all the kids high fives. And that's something that I try and not take for granted.
So we got El Patron de Grayson listening live, and he wants to ask, what's your handicap when it comes to golf?
I'm a 1 right now, so I'm pretty good, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get that down a little.
And I'll hand it back to you, Dylan, but I have to just ask one ask of Milan is just don't be like Gareth Bale and let golf become your primary enjoyment instead of soccer. Yeah. I'm a Tottenham fan, so although this happened more in the Real Madrid era, I don't want to see you fall more in love with golf and want to just maybe play golf all day and not actually do the soccer thing, unless that's really what you want to do. But I'm just saying this is an Orange County fan.
Gareth, it worked for him, so if I can have that career, I think I'll take it. So I mean, we'll see.
Go back to you, Dylan.
All right, one quick question for you, and then I'll circle back at the end. Milan, on average, when your mom gets mad at you, how many of your brother's names does she get through before she gets to yours?
What do you mean? Like, do you think like yelling at me first, or like?
Yeah, we'll say that you've done something wrong. Is she screaming Eric and then Brian before she gets to you? Is it Brian then you? Is it Eric first because he's the oldest?
No, it's always me. Brian's the oldest. Eric's the middle one. But
okay.
No, it's always me that's in trouble for anything. Even if Eric does something wrong, it's still me somehow. So I was always the one that got blamed for everything. It usually was me, to be honest. But it was always me. I was always the first name out of the mouth, no matter what it was.
Fair enough. Alan.
Alan,
So-
do you have any questions?
So you mentioned your college career at UCLA. You had quite the quite a few accolades in UCLA. Orange County tends to bring in young talent as well. So what do you say to a young soccer player? Either do you go pro? Do you go college? Like, what's your perspective, knowing that you did have, a really successful college career at UCLA?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've talked to quite a few people about this actually, and it's such a tough one because it really depends on the person, the type of person, what they value, their family values, and I think I grew up valuing school and education, and I believe that not only do you go to college for the education, but I think that you grow up a lot. And if I would have turned pro at 17, which I had the option to do, it would have been, I would be a completely different person than I am now. I wouldn't have the values that I have now. I wouldn't have the characteristics. I'd probably be very immature and not, be able to handle the ups and downs that come with being a professional soccer player, because it's not all good. I went through 2 tough, really, really tough years at RSL, not getting the minutes I thought that, I not only deserved, but I thought that, I would just get being a part of the squad for that long. But, I was able to handle those moments by going through stuff in college, whether it was, it might sound funny, but like turning in papers or like doing schoolwork, like that all in the end helps you mature as a person. Like having roommates, living on your own, doing those types of things, I think, it's completely different than if you turn pro early. But I mean, it also depends on the person. If you're, 16, 17 and you're a guy like Kobe Henry and, you could potentially have this great future, then it's tough to, turn down a professional contract when there's such a great future potentially. So it's definitely a battle that you have to have with yourself, and ultimately it comes down to the individual, I think, and what they and their family values.
All right, so you're a WWE wrestler. What is your entrance song?
Oh wow, I have no idea, honestly. That's a tough one. I have no clue, honestly. Probably like something from when I was a little kid. I loved Eminem. I had a shaved head. My friends just called me B Rabbit. So I don't know, something from him probably. I'm not sure.
So let me ask you then, staying with music, right? Milan, if you opened up your phone, whatever streaming music service you use, what song would be on the next playlist right now? What song would be playing if you plugged your phone in or connected to Bluetooth, whatever we want to do with that?
I don't know. My girlfriend forced me to listen to a lot of country lately. So it'd be something to do with country, I'd say. I honestly, I kind of like it, to be honest. I didn't at first. I was like, "You're crazy! I'm not listening to it," but I don't mind it now. So I'd probably just go to a country playlist and press shuffle, or she would send me some song to listen to, and I would have to do that. So they'd have to do something with country probably right now.
See, I'm loving Milan a lot more now because he's very similar to me. I was like hip hop as a youngster, and then my wife got me into country and some other stuff, which is really cool. Awesome there. Okay, karaoke. If you're at the karaoke bar, what song are you putting in for your rotation? If you're forced to sing a song, what song is it you're doing?
We had a karaoke night in college one time as a team. I did Ice Ice Baby. I'd probably go with that one.
Now, the big question is, you did the song. Did you do the dance moves with it as well?
No, I can't do that. I'm not much of a dancer. That's Brian, actually. He's the dancer out of us.
Brian's the dancer of the group. We'll have to
if you could believe
see if we can get a dance video of him. If you can send us an old dance video of Brian, if you have one hidden away, send it our way and we can show it on our pod.
I have a couple that I can send you guys.
And then one last question before I move on to Dylan for your final question. Do you have like maybe a top 3 all-time soccer player list? Like if you have like your favorite 3 players of all time, who would they be?
Rooney. That's the person that I fell in love watching was Rooney. He was the guy I watched my whole life, and that's the person that made me fall in love with it. So he's number 1. I'm a huge fan of like Messi and those types of guys, but that's kind of basic in my opinion, so I'm not going to say them. I would say Iniesta would be another one. I'll say him. I think he's someone that I can look up to. And last one, I'll go Pirlo because I think he's just quality. I think that's something I value. So I'd say those 3.
I know I said I'd hand it off to Dylan, but I do have to ask one more thing just because our producer threw something on on the social media chats here. Apparently you scored 5 goals against San Diego State in your UCLA career. What's the bigger moment, that or the first half hat trick against FC Tulsa?
Uh, that's a tough one because this is a professional match and it has all these different elements to it, and it's helped me like in this moment. So I would say this one, but then again, like those 5 goals gave me a lot of publicity and probably helped me get the contract that I got to go to RSL. So it's a tough one, but I'd say this one just because it's a professional match, and I think that it's ultimately a harder opponent and a higher level, and you have to go with a higher level performance.
Awesome. Your turn, Dylan.
All right, one final garbage question for you, Milan, and we'll get you out of here. What is your favorite vegetable, and how do you prepare it?
Vegetable? I'll go asparagus, and I like to salt, pepper, season it, and then throw it in the oven. And I like them to be like really crunchy. So I'll say that.
So your roommate's probably not a big fan of you then?
No, Brian taught me how to make it actually, so he's the one that showed me that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
There we go. Milan, do you have any last message for any fans that are listening or watching live to this episode?
No, I'd say thank you for all your support so far this year. Come out to the next match. I think we have Beer Fest, so that's going to be quite an event again. So yeah, I appreciate all the support. I can't wait to see you guys in the next match.
Awesome, and we're looking forward to see you score your next hat trick with Orange County. Hopefully, maybe this next match, but who knows? But we'd love to see just more goals from not just you, but your teammates, and we're hoping for a turn of the offensive aggressiveness, and we see you guys scoring a lot of goals from this point on. Once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Goal scorer, hat trick goal scorer in this last match from your Orange County Soccer Club, Milan Olaski. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us on this episode.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Awesome. You too. Wow. We got Dylan as the main face there after we let Mr. Olaski go. It's, awesome. I mean, now the Olaski family leads our show in the number of family members on our podcast. I don't know if there's ever going to be another family that can top that, especially, who knows, maybe one day we even get Eric on the team and he joins our show. They're just going to run the table on the number of family members on our show. Dylan, what are your thoughts of what you saw from this past match? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this right now. This was the first match of the season that I went to at home match. I did go to the Open Cup match at the bank, but this was my first home match of the season, and we scored 5 goals in the first half. Maybe I'm the missing link. Maybe I need to be at more matches, and maybe that'll help the team score more. What do you think, Dylan?
Let's give it a shot. I think this week was an anomaly with the amount of goals we scored, but I do like hearing that we focused on trying to actually maintain possession, because we don't have a really fast number 9 to get onto things, and we can't rely on a hat trick from Milan Olaski every single week to get us through the rest of the season. That being said, and I think producer Andy would also probably say the same thing, because we had the same thought, it's not great, even if we're up 5-0, it's not great conceding a goal in stoppage time, because if it's 2-1 or 1-0 or 1-1, I just wonder about our ability to see out a game still. And again, if last week was an anomaly, we do need all of the games, or excuse me, we do need all of the goals to really get anything out of these games, apparently.
So a couple things with this match. I the rumor mill got to me, and I heard that there was some discussion from the front office that was trying to get these players a little bit pumped up and ask them to do more, or maybe focus more on some offense. So maybe that's something that's in play there. Maybe that's something we're going to see a change up through the season. And the other thing I was going to say is we were 1 goal away for Orange County. If Orange County would have scored 1 more goal, I would have got some sort of like golden seat at the stadium. I was talking to Jeff from the club, just sort of talking about, hey, it's my first game here and we're doing this good. He's like, well, if they can score 6 goals, we'll get you a golden seat at the stadium or something like that. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. As far as the conceding in the 92nd, 93rd minute, whenever it was, I will take that because that gave me 3 points in our prediction contest. And it was sort of a goal that didn't matter anyways at that point. Although I would have loved, as a fan and as of a purist of the sport, I would have loved the shutout and the 5-0 shutout there. But, we have this competition between us, and it helped me really leapfrog into second place and only 2 points behind you, Dylan. So you must be scared at this point. You're like shaking in your boots, right?
No. What happens, right?
Alan, your thoughts?
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple concerning still. Orange County hasn't kept a clean sheet since the Oakland playoff match. So I think that's one thing to kind of keep an eye on. I think 12 straight games without a clean sheet. A 5-0 would have been really nice and something to build from. I think that's something that Orange County needs to clean up, especially if they're going to play a little bit more of a defensive approach. You're going to need to start seeing some clean sheets. This is not Orange County's biggest win against FC Tulsa. In 2018, they won 6-1 and 5-0 home and on the road against Tulsa. The last time there were 5 goals in a match was the 5-3 craziness FC Tulsa in 2019 against Orange County. So Tulsa, Orange County maybe just plays well against Tulsa. Tulsa looked really weak. I think once the couple goals went in, they were just like, all right, we're just going to mail this one in. We'll not try super hard and maybe get out of here without any injuries, although picking up that red card probably hurts them. This is pretty much total domination from Orange County over Tulsa. There's definitely some things that you can take from this. Again, another set piece goal from Kaningas to Olaski, I think is something of note. I think that's something that Orange County should be happy with. Sorry, was that Kubo Torres on that first goal? Some set piece.
I believe it was Kubo on the first goal.
Sorry, Kubo on that first goal, set piece from Kaningas, which he is really good at that stuff. So it's great to see him continuing to have a good season. The ball through from Kaningas, almost offside. I was talking to Annie beforehand. If Kaningas plays this with his right foot, I think Olaski's offside, but I think it takes a kind of a weird bounce and touch that makes Kaningas play it with his more preferred left foot, and it makes the center back from Tulsa step back to keep Olaski onside. Like if I was like, wait, that's off. Wait, no, that's not off. So probably a pretty good call from the linesman. It's too close to call regardless. I think you give the benefit of the doubt if you're not sure to the attacking player, and he just does a great job with his ball. So there's a lot of positives to take from this. Tulsa also was what the cool kids are calling a hot mess in this match. So some of it, I think, is maybe Orange County is kind of finding some of their form, and Tulsa just pooped the bed. So it'll be interesting to see how Orange County does against El Paso. And then they have, Atlanta and Oakland. And so I think if Orange County can build some positives against El Paso, I think that they can go on a nice little run here to raise up the Western Conference. Because right now it's kind of this middle ground is all kind of muddy, right? Sacramento to RGV, that's only 3 points separating 5th from 11th. This is like old school Western Conference USL where there's like 3 points separating a home playoff match from like the bottom of the West. So some positives for Orange County, I think that we can build from moving forward. And again, I really like what Kaningas is doing. I think he's taken a step up as far as a distributor and a set piece taker. And I like seeing that, and I would like to see more of that from him. I think that's a really big strength from Orange County, especially if your run of play offense hasn't been great. We talked about the set pieces and how important those are going to be, and it really paid off. And I think it put Tulsa on the back heels, and Orange County had just a killer instinct. So congratulations to Olaski on the hat trick. Again, Kaningas is playing well, 2 assists on the night. So a lot of success.
Can we just say too, just for any youngsters that may have watched our actual video of this, you watch on one of those goals, the one where we're potentially saying it was a close to offside there. Whoever was the center defender for FC Tulsa is raising his hand, waiting for the flag to come out, and just sort of jogging back instead of running back to try and be in position. Play till the whistle. I mean, you may think that there's offside and it may be called, but don't jog back with your hand up hoping that the flag gets raised, because you never know what's going to happen there. And obviously in that situation, it benefited Orange County, and it was probably a bad call by that defender for doing that, because that focus on raising the hand instead of hustling back led to an easy goal, or at least a goal opportunity there for Orange County. So please, youngsters, don't try and wait for the whistle. Play until you hear the whistle. That's what I teach my kids all the time. And I know you guys are mad inside for me bringing up my youth soccer team again. But that's all I'll say there. Let's do this. Any other last thoughts about this match, Dylan, before we start wrapping things up?
No, but conceding one. Yeah, yes. Sorry. Excuse me. Conceding a goal in stoppage time is the story of my life.
Oh, he had to get that in, folks. If you didn't realize, or you didn't know, if you weren't at the match, it was Social Distortion sort of night. They were selling the whatever quantity or whatever inventory of the special collaboration merchandise that they had still available. They were selling it at the stadium. I do want to say a quick thank you to one of our listeners, Russell. He ended up buying 2 of the hats that I wanted. And I literally went to the shop there at the entrance of the stadium to get one of the hats, the one that has the Social Distortion skeleton guy on it. And literally the person in front of me bought the last one in the inventory. I spoke to Russell at halftime. He had 2 hats. He had bought one for his son. He basically said if his son doesn't want it, he'll give it to me. He gifted it to me, so I appreciate that. So just wanted to give a shout out. Thank you, Russell, for that hat. Much appreciated. But we did find out that it sounds like there's going to be another run of the product. They're going to do another print of the products because it was such a popular thing. And the best part about it, it's all going towards what is it? The boys and girls club, or one of those things. I don't think it's the Boys and Girls Club. I forget what it is. But it's going towards a good cause, the profits, the proceeds from those sales. So when those get re-released, if you want those, make sure you get those ordered. Big brothers and big sisters, thank you, Mr. Producer, for helping me out there. Yeah, let's do this. Let's start wrapping things up. Soccer news, random soccer news. I'll go to you first, Alan. Do you have any random soccer stuff that you want to discuss?
San Diego Wave is killing it right now, and they're fun to watch. So support women's sports.
There we go. From me, I'm just going to say for 90 something minutes, I was a member of Toon Army, and I was cheering on Newcastle as they defeated Arsenal. Yes, I see Dylan's face. If you're watching the video, Dylan's face, because I get it. Any other time I'm not supporting the team, or I'm not watching the team, or I'm not cheering for them, but I needed them to beat Arsenal so that now Tottenham is in control. And now all Tottenham has to do is get a result against an already relegated Norwich City in the final match of the season to make the top 4 and get into Champions League next season. Hopefully I'm not jinxing it with that excitement there, because, you know, it would be definitely a Spursy thing to drop all 3 points against a relegated team on the last match of the season when you can guarantee yourself Champions League. But so hopefully it works out. I have faith in Antonio Conte for that. Dylan, random soccer stuff from you?
I don't have anything. I want to second Alan's support women's sports.
All right, random thoughts. I'll go to you first, Alan. Brad, you're lurking in the background. Your camera's not working. Your internet sucks today. If you want to type in your random thought, and we'll let Dylan or Alan or even I read it out loud, you can do so. If not, don't worry about it. Go, Alan. Random thought.
My random thought is Los Dos is a joke, and I hate it. And San Diego sports fans don't get to see their team play in the month of May in person in any reasonable capacity. The one chance we had was going to Los Dos to watch them play, but they don't let fans in a second division professional soccer league. Not allowing fans in is an absolute travesty. I know we talked about this in the past. I'm Orange County fans can commiserate as well, because you would like to drive the short distance to watch your team play in person, because that's why you sign up as a supporter. And it is absolutely terrible that the league is not requiring Los Dos to open their stadium for fans. And it is a bad look for the league. It's not a COVID issue. It's just a cost to operate issue. And if you're going to participate in the league, you need to allow fans to watch your matches, which means I'm out of town the next San Diego Loyal match, so I don't get to see them play in person until June 19th, which is terrible. So, hey, COVID's still a thing. Be safe, wear a mask, and Los Dos, we can't wait to kick you out of the league and have you go to MLS Next with their terrible logo, and there are no fans anywhere.
Dylan, what is your random thought for this episode?
Well, onto that, from that fun little rant about, I guess, something that doesn't really matter. It's been kind of not a great month so far, for people. I mean, we've had a fire and now a shooting. And across the country, we've had a puritanical handmade tales-esque rollback of rights for the people that are the most marginalized in our society already. So if you find yourself being a person who's not cool with that, it's probably time to start changing things, because there's only so much water and there's only so many things we can do to further disenfranchise people. We're kind of running out of options to even take anything from them at this point. So probably time to maybe do a little bit more than vote. Make your voice be heard, and let's maybe fight for a slightly better future, because I know a lot of people that have young kids listen to this podcast. I know a lot of younger people listen to this podcast and are generally fans of the USL. Man, we don't have a lot of time with the way that we've been treating the world, so we should probably treat it a little bit better, and then we should probably treat one another a little bit better in the meantime, because man, life's too short to be doing this kind of dumb stuff. Let's be better, or in the wise words of the former First Lady, let's be best. And while that is a joke, like, seriously, something's got to change, because we've been doing the same thing for 50 years.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, I'm gonna just sort of piggyback on that. Let's be nice to each other. Let's not hate on people because of whatever differences there may be. It's difficult. The whole shooting thing that happened in Laguna Woods, it sort of hit a little bit hard for me the other day, because when I found out who it was, that's my primary care physician. That was the one that was the hero in that incident, but lost their lives because of that. I had just changed primary care physician, so I never got a chance to meet the guy. But from all the stuff that I read, he was a wonderful guy, a great physician, a great person, and we can see in what he did. This was an event with mostly elderly people. From what I hear, he was taking his mom. His mom wanted to go to this event, this church event. And that's the reason he was there. And if you look at all the people that were injured, it was all people that were like 80, 90 years old, 70 years old. So this guy was a hero because of what he did in stopping more deaths and more injuries. So I'm sort of sad I never got to meet the guy, but it also is just that whole, 1 degree of separation, right? This guy was supposed to be my doctor. So there was supposed to be this, there's this closest to it. So it makes you really think about, what's going on and how can we be nicer to each other, and how can we make the world a better place. And I know we're here to talk soccer, and that's what we do most of the time, but I know I can speak for the two of you. I can speak for Brad. I can speak for our producer, Andy, is we all hope for a better place where people can just get along and not fight over differences of, gender and race and religion and all that stuff. But unfortunately, those things come about. So hopefully we can find a way. Hopefully there's a way that things can happen. But, I just want to say this. I love you guys. I love our listeners. I love everyone that is very supportive of what we do, supportive of others, and trying to make this place this world a better place. So, before we wrap things up, I do want to thank our guests tonight. First, Phil Talks Footy, Phil Bakke from the USL show, Seriously Loco, and whatever other projects he's doing. Thank you, Phil, for joining us tonight. Also, Mr. Milan, the hat trick scorer from this past match for Orange County. We appreciate both of those gentlemen for jumping on. Also for Dylan, for Alan, for Brad, when he was able to make it on, with a spotty internet connection, and our producer, Andy. I want to thank all of the listeners. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and we are out. Orange County, you are my team until the day I die. And when that happens,